how do we know what is true? When a serious crime is committed, like robbery or murder, detectives are called in to investigate. The detective's job is to find the right suspect and build enough evidence against him or her to convince a jury of 12 ordinary citizens that he or she is guilty. For centuries, there was only really one type of evidence: eyewitness testimony. The problem with eyewitness testimony is that people's memories are not perfect, and its use in court often meant that innocent people were convicted. It wasn't until the 1980s and the discovery of DNA evidence that detectives finally had a reliable tool to help them convict suspects. Based on the discovery of a person's blood, skin cells, or saliva, it became possible to prove that they were at the crime scene around the time a crime was committed. DNA evidence is now essential to detective work, as Peter Kirkham, the former chief of London's police force, points out.
Without any shadow of a doubt, the advent of DNA has made identifying your suspect, which is sort of job one, hugely easier. It's given you an entirely different way of identifying a suspect that simply did not happen before.
But is DNA evidence perfect? Well, there are actually cases in which people have been wrongly convicted of crimes because of DNA evidence. Much like fingerprints, which were discovered in the early 1900s, just because your DNA is present at a crime scene doesn't mean you're guilty.
A DNA match doesn't necessarily, in fact frequently doesn't, actually mean that the person is guilty of anything. All it does is identify them from a physical trace left at some point in the scene.
The problem is that juries are often convinced by DNA matches because they believe the technique to be certain proof, which means that innocent people can still be convicted. Peter Kirkham believes jurors are influenced by TV shows and movies that glamorize forensic science.
This sort of mystique that's grown up around DNA outside the whole criminal justice process, coming from drama programs like CSI, from whatever, the jurors come in with an idea of what DNA is all about, and I suspect if we went and asked 100 people in the street, does DNA match mean you did it? I think 99 would probably say yes.
So, if even DNA can be wrong, how can we ever know whether someone is guilty or innocent? Well, the simple answer is, quite often, we can't. So detectives have to use all the evidence at their disposal, including eyewitnesses, fingerprints, and DNA evidence. And by using these techniques in combination, we can get closer to knowing the truth behind a crime.